All right. We are here. We are live and ready to rock this awesome interview that I get to do with David again. We're really like realistically we're actually back for part two here. So
Part two.
welcome. Welcome.
Thanks.
I'm just gonna change over this setting here really quick. We're good to go. So welcome. It's I got to see you this week already, but it's good to see you again.
You too.
Um, how how are you doing? Anything you want to share before we get started?
No, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's 7:30 in Arizona. The temperature's been 80 to 90, so hey, life is great.
We're
It's
wearing the
gorgeous.
same shirt as well. We've managed to just merge everything together here.
We're like twins.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're taller than me. That's the only. If we were twins, then I
We'll
lost out
bet.
on that end of it a little bit. But
You're the Danny DeVito. I'm the Arnold Schwarzenegger. Is
yeah,
that what you're saying? Okay.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Thanks for joining me for this time together, David. I'm really excited to dive in and just get to talk about like hey, what's happened over the last year of our coaching together, and what's life been like. And so I really just want to thank you for taking the time to do this.
My pleasure.
So just to start us off, is there anything that you want to share about yourself for people who might not know you or just want to get a better idea of who you are and what you're up to in the world?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, David York, I live in Phoenix, Arizona. Been here for several years, so I think that almost makes me a native. Came out here to go to college and exploring different things. I've gotten recently into life coaching myself, which is great through your encouragement as well, which has been a wonderful experience and journey. Such a great industry and what we're able to do to help people and to create those lives that people want to create. Just so much that people can do with their lives, and it's cool to be a part of it, working with you and giving back and helping others too. It's been really fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for sharing. So, and to give folks who might be watching today or watching, at another point, some context. So, David and I, we started working together in January of 2022, and
Hmm.
we did the basically we did the foundations um, aspect of the program up until June, and then David, you decided to sign up for this craziness for another year. And so we're going to be talking about that experience. We'll see wherever this conversation goes, really. But I would love to just start there. Like, what had you come back for another? You committed to come back for another year, basically after that the first 4 months. Like,
Yeah.
what made you come to, first of all, like wanting more of this and making that decision to go forward?
Yeah, so I found you, interestingly enough, from the Facebook group after I got some feedback from my full time job right now. It was interesting, and so I found Dr. Glover's book and read that book. Got involved in the Facebook group and began to recognize like I need some help. I've been in self help, all of my life. I've been doing that. But I recognize that I can't see certain aspects of myself in my life, and I kind of need somebody to help point that out. So I went through the initial program, and man, we made phenomenal progress. Right, things got different. My way of being in the world was different, and through that, um, you and I working together, I've been able to kind of take a look at what else is available. Right, so I came in with that focus of I need to get better at business. And through that, it was like, I need to get better at life. Like, there's so much more that I want. Just kind of opened up to the possibility. Well, I just had this myopic view, right? If I just did well at my job, then everything would be awesome. And started to recognize through working with you that, hey, there's other stuff that I want to make awesome and beautiful as well. And so that I was like, yes. I want more of this. How can I take that to the next level and continue to develop that and bring that life that I want into reality and to create that?
Hmm. Yeah, it's so cool, one of just really seeing the, you could call it growth, but really I would say just the awareness that opened up in those first 4 months, really just like uh an awareness of who you are in the world, and then connecting that to like the greater possibilities, the greater opportunities that are available in life, you know, from that place.
Yeah.
Um, anything, so like as you got into starting, let's say the starting of of that second part of this coaching experience, like was there anything specific that you were looking to create, or any I guess really like when you look at it from the experience of, okay, you committed to a full year,
Mm.
what were you wanting to create in that year?
Yeah, there's a few things, and I think it branched out, right? Where I was thinking business, which, by the way, my last year, 2022, is one of the best years I've ever had. Was turned out really, really well. But we started talking about other areas, right? Because who I was being at work began to spill out, and who I was being in other areas of life, and I think that expanded the not only awareness of it, but also possibility of what could I do as my role of husband, what could I do as my role of father, what could I do as my role of neighbor, friend, etc. And really wanted to expand on that. So I think it just kind of went myopic to, yeah, I want more. I want
Hmm.
more out of all these different aspects of my life.
And I'm curious, like, what was your experience? You talk about how like how you were showing up at work was, you could start to see the connections that were, showing up in other areas of life. Like before getting into coaching, was that were you able to make those same connections?
Yes, to an extent, but not at a, it was almost like a superficial level. It was very tactical. And I've always
Mm,
liked like executive books on how to get better. And I think I've always recognized that, yeah, that's going to translate over to my personal life as well. But I think it was always very tactical.
mm,
If I just apply this system or this process, then I will achieve results. But it wasn't any work around, and I recognized that, okay, yeah, I can apply the same system in my personal life too. But it's interesting in the work that you do ontologically doesn't go to that level with that type of work, right? It expanded from a process to me and who I'm being and who I want to be and how do I go through life with that and make that. What's interesting about that is that really does then bleed into all those different areas. It has been my experience, right? And much easier than trying to apply a process, etc.
hmm. Yeah, and I like my experience even before coaching as well. I mean, I've shared this with you many times. I mean, people that have the ability to take action and are, goal driven, goal oriented in life, have a tremendous capacity to make things happen, to sort of connect those dots between one area and another. But I love that are speaking to like it's kind of like a tactical move. It's very strategic, often in the approach when we take on the journey by ourselves. Because that's,
Yeah,
we're not getting feedback, right? Or
yeah,
we're working with what we have, which again, can be at a very, very high level. And I think that, one of the cool things about coaching is that, um, well, at least for coaches who will take the stance of like, I'm going to reflect back some of the things that I see. I'm
mm,
going to sometimes take those uncomfortable steps of like, hey, do you see what's happening here, or that type of thing. Very, very, vague and broad in how I'm explaining it. But like, um, what I would just share there is that, how I would speak to that experience is like, it's really, it's just being in conversation, right? Like being in conversation with a coach, um, inevitably is going to show some of the things, some of the blind spots, some of the things that you may not be aware of when you're tackling this stuff on your own.
Yeah, I would add to that too.
Yeah.
Um, Not only being shown, but also encouraging action, even when you know it should be there, right? So in business, when I read the strategy, or et cetera, right, I'd go and apply that. In my personal life, I'd go and apply that to an extent, right? Once it gets
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable, once a little bit of fear was there, then I was like, okay, I'll apply it this much, but I'm not really going to go all in. And I think that was another benefit too, was that constant progress towards the edge, right? Okay, I'm
Mm-hmm.
scared, but I'm going to move forward. Scared, going to move forward. I think really accelerated everything in life because of that. And I wouldn't have done that on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I'd get to a point where maybe it's a little uncomfortable and I feel like, yeah, I'm really challenging myself. I'm a little uncomfortable. Where working with you, it has been really uncomfortable at times, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
right? There were conversations I had that I was not, not at all comfortable with, but
Mm-hmm.
needed to in order to continue to progress.
Yeah, and I know that you know this, and one of the things that I would speak to as well is that, my experience of sort of the solo journey is that, first of all, it takes courage to be able to like even step out of the comfort zone into some of those
Mm,
areas like you're speaking to. My experience of it sometimes is like those areas that are truly like outside of the comfort zone into the unknown, I'm not even looking there sometimes. It's like a
yeah,
fog in a sense. So it's like
yeah,
I find that really fascinating too because what I notice about a lot of people, including myself, is that like we can often be very hard on ourselves. Like, oh, I'm not even like stepping out of my comfort zone, or I'm not even pushing myself. And it's like, yeah, but like, are you like, are you even like looking in a sense? Are you
mm,
even looking at those areas? And so, um, such a great example, like you're sharing of like, yeah, like on my own, I was able to make and really great progress. Again, I would always point to that, but like alone, you've created such great things on your journey, and then being in this experience, it kind of puts like an accelerator on it a little on it. It
yeah,
being in partnership, it just opens up more possibility because you're partnering together to create it.
yeah. No, I totally agree. Yeah, there were definitely places that I wouldn't have been looking,
Hmm.
right? And there would be a place where I would have ended up, which you know, could I might have called it successful, right? From
Hmm.
my own personal standard in business and relationship. See how things are good. But you're right, unless you look beyond that with the help that we've done and the work we've done together, yeah, I wouldn't even have noticed. And I would have ended up at this point versus being able to see all the different points that I want to end up at and moving towards
Hmm.
that. Yeah, that's a great point.
Um, and I think it's Adam Quiney, who we've got to be in a coaching session with, and we've talked about a lot. He talks about this idea of like creating outside of the predictable path of life.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like what I notice of achievers is like that predictable path can be very long in a sense, right? People have like we have a tremendous capacity to create, but the beauty of this work is it truly allows us to create a life that is outside of the predictable path. you know, I know some of the stuff that you've spoken to, like you've said, that I don't know if some of these things may have taken me a long time to create, or I might not have created them at all. And that very much speaks to being on that unpredictable path to wherever, life goes. And it's the same thing for me too. When I look back on my journey of coaching and being coached and where I am now, it's like, yeah, I can't imagine, what life would be like if I didn't go down this path.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And not only what I wanted to create in life, I think what's interesting through our work for this year has been more around not only what I want to create, but how I want to create it. And
Hmm.
I think even more importantly, switch letters around who I want to be when I create it. And that's been an interesting thing. Like I have the goal of what I want to create, but what's become more important is like, how do I want to be as
Hmm.
I create that? And then going back to your first point and applying business strategy to personal life, etc. Going through life with the focus on that, like more of a goal on who do I want to be, has helped to, I think, bring all of that together. So it isn't applying, it hasn't been, this last year hasn't felt, well, it kind of did at the beginning until I started having some shifts. Hasn't been just I apply this formula here and then I apply this formula here. It's been more of I apply me, who I want to be, and what is my essence, and how do I want to exist in the world. And then that has led to easier transformation in the external in all parts of my life. Like it just kind
Mm.
of bleeds over naturally versus applying a strategy or tactic. It just kind of happens because it's coming from me being in those different environments, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. What I hear in that is really like the being, the qualities that you're bringing to the world. Those are like the foundation of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And that of itself has been a catalyst for
Hmm.
change in all aspects. And what's nice about, I don't know, I find it, and we've talked about this a little bit, it's been kind of like the new transformation is I'm finding that transformation in other areas of life externally easier.
Hmm.
Like success and different things that I want to create is just easier because it's coming from me just being in these areas. Like it flows between all areas now. So it feels like it's a lot less energy and effort put externally. It's just kind of happening,
Yeah.
which is a cool place right now.
Yeah. And that's, really like, I would say that at the core of what this is all about, right? That us as human beings, that the more that we can just be our authentic selves, it makes life much easier, much,
Mm,
much more in flow. Um, so it's so great to hear that, right? It's so great to hear that, like, that's how the experience has been for you, over this last year of, getting in tune with like who you're being, the qualities that you have, and like really like championing those, and then noticing like the impact that that's having everywhere in life.
mm. Yeah, that's a great word, flow, and that's kind of resonates with me recently. It just that's what life is like for me right now. It just
Mm,
feels like everything is is flow, like it's flowing well, and it's just it's hard to describe, but it's just a completely different experience for me.
hmm. Yeah, it's so cool. Um, so what would you say has been like, you've kind of spoken to it as in this, coming from this way of being, but like, how has this year gone for you? When you think of when we started in June with the second part of this coaching to where we are now, with all that's occurred for you in life, like, yeah, how are things? Like, what are you noticing, you know, just in sort of the arc of this coaching experience?
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting because it feels like I'm hitting a new level each time, right? And it's almost like being on a mountain and you climb up to that next ledge and you look up and you see, on the one hand, I've got, oh, there's more to go. Like that's a long way up there to where I want to be. But then I look down and it's like, holy crap, that's a long way down. Like I've come a
Mm,
long way. So that's one of the things I'm noticing is like every time I kind of reach a new stage, it's like, okay, there's more to go. But then I look down and it's like, wow, that's been a long way. The interesting thing about this year, really one of the key takeaways from me, which I got kind of frustrated with, was just kind of a cyclical nature. I
mm,
think while it's an upward, I feel like I'm climbing upward, like there's been progression, but it's almost like the path goes around the mountain and I
mhm,
keep coming back to the same side of the mountain. We'd have a coaching session. It's like, well, we've been here before. And it's like, yes, dang it. But it's different and it's
mhm.
better. So revisiting some of the same things, keep showing up and I can continue to work on them, but they're at a different level.
Yeah. Yeah, and that, again, it's like that feeling shows up for many, many people, myself
Mm,
included. And on one hand, it can really take people out
yeah.
where they've taken on personal development work, they've seen some changes, and then all of a sudden, the same issues are coming up in their marriage, or um, maybe there hasn't been career advancement at the pace that they've wanted to. And that can be really confronting because it's like, here I am doing all this work and I'm back, and I feel like I'm back in the same place.
Yeah.
And what I hear you saying in your share as well is like, both, like, again, like the challenge of that, just being with that, like allowing that to occur. And one of the things that's been shared with me is like, even though it might feel the same, that to really take heed of like what has actually shifted.
Yeah.
So even though it might feel the same, yeah, truly, like, how is this experience different?
Yeah. And I think that's again helpful that, I had you as a coach because you're right. I mean, that when it shows up again and you've done all that work, I mean, that it's heartbreaking because you're like,
Hmm.
I was done with this. I have moved on and I'm not. Right. And I think if I was again doing it myself, like I've always done, I think, and I can recognize times where that's happened, where it's like, yes, I've overcome this and it shows up again. And it's like, you give up because it is
Hmm.
frustrating and disheartening. And you're like, I can't change this. Right. But and you got you to be able to say, yeah, but let's take a look at what is different now to be able to recognize that, okay, yeah, it's the same thing showing up again, but it's different this time. Like it's
Hmm.
vastly different. And I think that gives hope. Like, yeah, okay, great. There is
Hmm.
progress, even though it doesn't feel like it right now.
Yeah. So what's next for you? In terms of, even for 2023, and whatever you see beyond, like, what do you see on this next level of the mountain for you?
Mm. Yeah, in some ways, I don't know, because it's been a little surprising as I go along this journey, right? Like, wow, it's almost like it is a journey, right? You don't know what you're going to get on the path, and that's been kind of cool and exciting. I geek out on this a little bit, right? When something comes up and it's like, wow, that's cool. I didn't know that about myself, or I've never experienced this before. So that's been fun. And I think we're really working on examining possibility
Hmm.
and being able to kind of see other options. I think there's still work there for sure about even though I've kind of expanded everything, I'm being differently. There are still patterns showing up, and one of the things that you and I were talking about, we got to a point where we identified like, this is how I am in this situation, and I've got really turn that on or turn it completely off, right?
Mm.
And I remember you asked me, you're like, well, what are other options?
Mm-hmm.
And that still hits me. Like I think about that all the time because I couldn't I couldn't see it. Like literally couldn't. I'm like, I don't know, man. I got turn it on really high or turn it off. Like I can't see anything but that. And that just blew my mind. It was like,
Mm.
wow, I still have some work to do here to be able to see all the different options and kind of make that shift. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be my main focus.
Yeah, and like first of all, so cool to just be open to that. Like, oh, there
Mm,
are, when you like you're speaking to possibility and really just like the what do we want to create and knowing that there could be options just outside of like A and B, like what a opening that's there. And I would still put it to you like, so given that if possibility is sort of this broad place of exploration, are there any areas of life where you're like, yeah, this is what I want to create this?
yeah, there are a few, right? Like I love what I do currently in my role. I what I do currently full time,
Hmm.
but I want more than that, and I recognize that I still have that limited. It's expanded cone of probability, but I don't think that that's fully expanded, and so that's an area I still want to create. It's like, what is
Hmm.
that profession, and how do I do that full time and create what I really want to do full time, whether that's within my current company or somewhere else, but create that. Um, and then relationship wise, we've talked about this. I've always had this vision. Like I don't want just a good marriage. I want like the best marriage out there. Like I want to be a beacon for people who are married to say, I don't know what they're doing, but
Hmm.
man, I want some of that.
Yeah, so cool, right? To see both areas of life. I will bring up one, that you mentioned around travel and adventure. I
Yeah.
found that one to be interesting because, I feel like it's been in our conversations at points for
Mm,
sure, but like, it's, again, not to take away from career or marriage, but another cool place to even just be present to of like, hey, do you remember mentioning that? Do you remember like
yeah,
putting that down on paper?
I do. I do. And that's been actually pulling at me a lot, with the coronavirus and everything
Hmm.
shutting down. I just kind of turned that off and doing a little bit of that more for business. But there's definitely a yearning to just get a backpack and go, right? And
Hmm.
just see the world. And that's been a very limited part of my life. And I really want to expand that. And I enjoy visiting different places and meeting different people with different views and haven't been able to do that. So I need to put that, might be a project design there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's cool because now all we need to do is we can just take this 5-minute chunk where we just talked about possibility, and we got lots to work with
Got a
now.
lot to work with.
So that's great to hear. So we'll start to wind down from here. Anything else you want to share about the experience or what you're up to next?
Yeah, I think I'm going to do a project on travel. I think that's up to next.
Hmm.
Um, about the experience, it it's interesting to reflect back, um, to where I am now, and it's funny to think about as we began to work. I would have this goal, like, man, if I could just get to here, things would be the best ever. And then I would get there, and it's like, okay, cool. I'm not here
Hmm.
because I was pretty low, right? There's a lot going on, and had that very myopic focus, and I don't like the way I was being at all back then. Like it's not good. But it's so funny to look at the different different stages. Is, man, okay, maybe I can go here. Oh yeah, now I can go a little bit more. And each time there's been more than I want to do. And I, I think the biggest thing is just that through our work of this year, just really how life has changed holistically, and it has shifted from like external to more of internal about how I want to be and how impactful that is, and how, I'm just going to say it, how it's going to get amazing, I'm sure, but how awesome life is right now,
Hmm.
and how everything does flow, and how it, there's joy, enjoyment. I mean, it was just such a cool journey where I didn't really have any of that at the beginning. That's been the
Yeah.
biggest takeaway, right? Okay, I had a great year last year. That stuff doesn't really matter to me now. It's more of, I'm really enjoying life right now. That's the payoff.
Yeah. Yeah, I really feel that. I mean, what I think the piece that really stands out there is that it almost feels like, okay, in the past there may have been a few pathways to go down, maybe one or two or that type of thing. And what it feels like is really present right now is like, gosh, there are just so many ways that you could go and
Mm,
so many opportunities that you could explore, and what that's really opened up for you, in this process of having fun and enjoying life. Like, what a cool experience. And like, it comes back to like, you are the generator of that. You have been the
yeah.
creator of all of that in your life. So really, really, like, really great work. It's something really to celebrate,
Mm.
for where you've arrived. Um, so anything that you want to share with folks who might be watching this afterwards about, if somebody was interested in getting in contact with you or finding more about what you're up to?
Yeah, totally. So I'm very active on Facebook because I'm older, and that's the social media we use, and on Instagram. You can find me looking at David for David York the second, or I also have a Facebook page and an Instagram, York Life Coaching. You can contact me there too.
Cool. Sounds good. Um, and your favorite part, may I give you some acknowledgement?
Ah, yes, you may.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really want to acknowledge you for just exactly that, like the being that you're bringing into the world. I think it's so cool. I remember some of our early conversations where when you connected to like just tapping into the qualities of who you are, that like you were so, just willing to go out into the world and and bring your own qualities, and really like trial this out, see it in others as well. And what I really have seen in you is just like this real expansiveness, a real ownership of like, this is who I am. These qualities are who I am. This I can be this authentic person and create life from this place. It's been such a cool thing to witness. Um, and I really do want to acknowledge you. I've always, admired the leadership that you bring. I think that that was a given from day one when we started working together. But what I think the cool thing that's really present is like how your leadership is expanding even more. Your openness to take feedback, your openness to just like have like the, things that a lot of people would be scared of having shown, like shared with you, and you take it and you run with it, and you just like, you bring that into the world as well through your leadership.
Mm,
So I just really want to acknowledge you for like that passion, that energy that you bring, and that real like drive to make the world a better place, to support people in having better lives as well. Like, you're such a generator for that, and it's so fun to witness and watch. And I really also want to acknowledge you for like this place that you stepped into, this place of open possibility and bringing fun and excitement and like just new opportunities that can be available, because the more that you step into that, the more it becomes a clearing for others to step
Mm,
into it as well. That they, when they see you being a gateway to possibility, it creates that for others as well. And what a gift that that is, and sharing that with others in the world. So thanks truly for doing this work, for, going through that going through these periods where, the growth is sort of on that like spirally circle up the mountain, and like really seeing it through to get to where you are now. It's been really powerful to witness.
cool. Thank you.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. All right, David. Well, thank you so much for, just again spending this time. Cool conversation, just to see where we went and what we got to explore. Guys, and girls that are out there, feel free if you have any questions, any comments that you want to share with us. Please feel free to put them into the feed, and we will answer them at another time. But yeah, please feel free to bring anything that you have, anything that that just resonated for you from this conversation. So thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your evening, and talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Thanks, Andrew.